Here's the dirty little secret no dealership wants slipping out. The same mechanics who can spot a rolling money pit from across the parking lot quietly drive home in something completely different. They see what breaks, they see what bankrupts you, and then they go buy the exact opposite. These are the 5 cheap cars mechanics buy for themselves and never regret. The cars they'd never sell you, because hey, if everybody drove one of these, who'd pay for their boat? So let's pull back the curtain and start with the first one. Number 5 is the car that looks like it should be delivering pizzas, and in a way, that's exactly the point. The Honda Jazz is the vehicle equivalent of that quiet kid in school who never said much, never got into trouble, and 20 years later owns 3 houses. Nobody saw it coming. Mechanics did, because while everybody else was busy lusting after something with a turbo and a personality disorder, the people who actually fix cars for a living were quietly snapping these up for their wives, their kids, their grandmothers, and then, embarrassingly, for themselves. So what's the magic trick? Honestly, there isn't one, and that's the whole genius of it. Under that tall, slightly dorky little body sits one of the most stubbornly indestructible engines Honda ever built, the L Series, a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder with no turbo to blow, no fancy direct injection to gum up, and a timing chain instead of a belt, which means there's no expensive rubber band ticking away inside, waiting to snap and turn your engine into modern art. These motors routinely sail past 200,000 miles while still starting on the first crank on a freezing morning, sounding exactly as unenthusiastic as the day they left the factory. They don't get excited, they just go. But the engine is only half the love story. The real party trick is what Honda did with the Space. They mounted the fuel tank under the front seats instead of the rear, which freed up these now legendary magic seats that fold, flip, and contort in ways that frankly seem illegal for a car this size. You can fit a bicycle, a flat-pack wardrobe, or the emotional baggage of your entire family in the back of one. It's a clown car that refuses to be funny about reliability. And because the whole thing weighs about as much as a wet golden retriever, it sips fuel like it's rationing during a war, which is why it costs almost nothing to run. Now, here's where I keep you honest, because this is the part the seller won't mention while he's smiling at you. Watch the early CVT automatic gearboxes on certain years. They can get tired and start juddering if some previous owner never bothered changing the fluid. So insist on a smooth, seamless test drive with no hesitation when you accelerate. Check underneath for rust on the rear suspension and subframe, especially on cars that lived somewhere with salty winter roads, because tin worm doesn't care how good the engine is. And listen for any rattle from the air conditioning compressor, a known weak spot that's cheap to ignore and painful to fix. Sort those 3 things, and you've basically bought a car that will outlive your interest in it. That's the funny thing about the Jazz. It's not exciting, it's not fast, it will never ever impress the neighbors. It'll just start every single morning for the next decade while quietly making everyone who bought something flashier feel a little bit stupid. Which brings us neatly to number 4, a car that takes that exact idea and wraps it in something far more tempting. Real quick, before we roll into number 4, if you're enjoying this little peek behind the curtain, do me a favor and smash that like button. Because believe it or not, that tiny tap is the only thing that convinces the algorithm to show this video to other people, instead of burying it next to a clip of a cat playing piano. And while your thumb's already in the neighborhood, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of these mechanic-approved secrets. But here's what I really want to know down in the comments. What's the cheap, boring, unkillable car that you swear by? The one your friends made fun of until it outlasted every single one of their cooler cars? Drop it below. I read them all, and trust me, somebody down there is about to defend a rusty old hatchback like it's a family member. All right, number 4. Number 4 is the car that proves something mechanics figured out a long time ago. The most reliable vehicle on the lot is usually the one with the fewest things to go wrong. Enter the Dacia Duster, a chunky little SUV that wears its cheapness like a badge of honor and somehow makes everything parked next to it look ridiculously overpriced. It's the automotive equivalent of showing up to a black tie gala and work boots and a clean conscience, ordering the same steak as everyone else and paying a quarter of the bill. People laughed at it. Then they looked at the repair invoices on their fancy German SUVs and slowly stopped laughing. Here's the secret sauce, and it's almost insultingly simple. Dacia didn't try to reinvent anything. They raided the parts bin of Renault. Engines, gearboxes, suspension bits that had already been beaten to death across millions of cars over more than a decade, took only the components that had a proven track record of refusing to die and bolted them into a no-nonsense body. So when something does eventually wear out, the part is everywhere, it's dirt cheap, and any mechanic on the planet can fit it in their sleep without remortgaging your house. There's no complicated wizardry, no fragile electronic gremlins hiding in the dashboard waiting to ruin your Tuesday. It's a car built by people who clearly understood that the best way to fix a problem is to never invent it in the first place. And then there's the toughness, which is where the Duster quietly becomes a bit of a legend. This thing was designed for rough roads and tough countries, which means it shrugs off potholes, gravel, mud, and general abuse that would have a softer crossover whimpering for a tow truck. The ground clearance is genuinely useful, the available all-wheel drive system is simple and effective, and the whole car has this reassuring go-anywhere, complain-about-nothing attitude. It's not luxurious. The plastics inside feel like they were chosen specifically because they can survive a toddler, a Labrador, and the heat death of the universe. But everything works, everything keeps working, and nothing falls off. For a car that costs about as much as a decent set of alloy wheels on something posher, that's borderline witchcraft. But before you go hugging the nearest one, let me keep you out of trouble. On the petrol engines, the smaller, naturally aspirated unit is bulletproof, but genuinely slow, so don't expect to win any traffic light drag races. You'll get there, eventually, possibly next week. The turbocharged versions are punchier, but a touch more complex, so on those, make sure the servicing is up to date and the oil's been changed religiously, because turbos hold a grudge against neglect. Check the clutch on the manuals for any slipping, since hard-driven examples can wear them early, and give the underside a proper look for rust and any signs the car spent its life genuinely off-road rather than just looking the part in a supermarket car park. Do that, and you've got a tank that thinks it's a runabout. Because that's the beautiful contradiction of the Duster. It asks for so little and gives back so much that owning one almost feels like cheating, like you found a loophole in the entire car industry and nobody's come to close it yet. It makes cheap sound like a compliment and basic sound like a superpower, which is exactly the mindset you'll need for number 3, because this next one takes affordability and quietly straps a smile to it.
Number 3 is where the story takes a little turn, because so far we've talked about cars that are reliable and proud of being plain. The Hyundai Creta is the one that quietly asks, but what if it could be unbreakable and not feel like punishment? And that's the trap. That's the genius. It gives you all the dependability of a car your mechanic would approve of, then sneaks in air conditioning that actually works, a touchscreen that doesn't belong in a museum, and a ride comfortable enough that you forget you bought it for sensible reasons. It's the responsible adult who turns out to be secretly fun at parties. Mechanics noticed. They always notice the ones that make their job boring. The backbone of why this thing earns its spot is an engine philosophy that's almost old-fashioned in the best possible way. Hyundai spent years getting roasted for building forgettable cars, and somewhere along that road they got quietly, ruthlessly good at it. The naturally aspirated petrol units in the Creta are about as fussy as a houseplant. Feed them oil now and then, and they'll keep humming along without drama. No turbo to baby, no temperamental nonsense waiting to ambush your wallet. Parts are cheap and absolutely everywhere. Dealers are on practically every corner of the planet, and the whole car was engineered to be serviced by ordinary humans rather than a team of specialists wearing lab coats. That's the kind of reliability that doesn't make headlines, but absolutely makes friends. And then there's the part nobody expects from something this affordable. It actually feels like a real grown-up SUV. The cabin is roomy enough to swallow a family and their entire chaotic life. The seats don't try to renegotiate your spine on a long drive, and the build quality has this surprisingly solid, button clicks properly, doors shut with a thunk feeling that punches way above what you paid. It's tall enough to make you feel safe in traffic, small enough to park without a prayer, and economical enough that the fuel gauge moves at a pace that won't give you anxiety. For a lot of people, this is the first cheap car they've owned that never once made them feel like they settled. And that emotional plot twist is exactly why these hold their value so stubbornly on the used market. Now let me do my job and stop you from making a mistake. The big one to watch is the dual-clutch automatic on certain versions. When they're healthy, they're slick, but a neglected one can get jerky at low speeds or hesitate awkwardly when you pull away. So on the test drive, crawl through slow traffic and feel for any clunky, indecisive shifting. The simpler torque converter automatics and the manuals are generally the safer, more relaxed bet. Make sure every recall and software update has been done, because these cars rely on their electronics behaving themselves. And check the air conditioning blows ice cold, since fixing it later is the kind of bill that takes the shine right off a bargain. Tick those boxes and you've got an SUV that feels expensive while charging you for being humble. Because here's the real reason the Creta sneaks onto a mechanic's shortlist. It breaks the unwritten rule that a sensible car has to feel like a sacrifice. It comforts you, it pampers you a little, and then it has the nerve to just never break. That combination is rarer than it sounds, and once you've lived with it, going back feels impossible. Which is the perfect setup for number 2, because this next one took a completely different route to legendary status, and it did it by being almost stubbornly, gloriously simple.
Number 2 is the car that mechanics talk about in the same hushed, slightly annoyed tone people use for that one friend who eats whatever they want and never gains a pound. The Toyota RAV4 is almost offensively dependable. It's the SUV that refuses to give anyone a good story because nothing ever goes wrong with it, and where's the drama in that? Ask a mechanic about the RAV4 and watch their face do something complicated, a mix of deep respect and quiet professional grief, because every one of these on the road is a repair bill that never landed in their pocket. They love it, they also kind of resent it, and then they go buy one anyway. The reason is almost boringly straightforward, and that's the entire point. Toyota built the RAV4 around engines that were designed with one obsessive goal: do not break, no matter how badly the owner behaves. These motors will tolerate skipped services, cheap fuel, brutal commutes, and years of pure neglect, and they'll just keep starting, keep running, keep refusing to die out of what feels like sheer spite. The whole machine is over-engineered in the way Toyota became famous for, slightly heavier, slightly less exciting, and built with enough margin that nothing is ever working at its limit. Things that wear out on other cars are simply built tougher here, which is why you'll see RAV4s with mileage so high it looks like a typo, still doing the school run like it's nothing. But the masterstroke, the thing that really cements its legend, is the hybrid versions. Now stop. I know what you're thinking, because I thought it too. Hybrids are supposed to be complicated, expensive, ticking time bombs of battery anxiety. Toyota looked at that assumption and quietly destroyed it. Their hybrid system has been refined over so many years and so many millions of cars that it's become one of the most reliable drivetrains on Earth, full stop. The electric motor actually takes strain off the engine and the brakes, so, in a delicious plot twist, the more complicated hybrid often wears out slower than the simple one. It sips fuel, it's smooth, it's quiet, and it makes the very idea of being scared of a used hybrid feel a little silly. That's why these things hold their value like they're coated in gold, because everybody wants one and nobody wants to sell theirs. Now, because I refuse to let you walk into this blindly, here's what to actually check. On the popular hybrids, listen and feel for the engine running rough or warning lights related to the hybrid system, and ideally get a battery health check. A healthy pack is fine for years, but you want to know what you're buying. On certain four-wheel drive versions, watch for any whine or vibration from the rear differential and driveline if it's been worked hard or towed a lot. Check for oil consumption on some older engines by looking at the dipstick level and asking how often they top it up. And as always, hunt for rust underneath on cars from salty climates, because even a Toyota can lose a fight with a decade of winter roads. Clear those, and you've essentially bought a car that treats breaking down as beneath its dignity. That's the quiet power of the RAV4. It doesn't seduce you, it doesn't thrill you. It just shows up every single day for 15 years and asks for almost nothing in return.
And somewhere along the way, that relentless, unglamorous loyalty becomes the most attractive thing a car can possibly offer. It's the safe choice that turned out to be the smart choice all along. But it's still only number two, because the car sitting at number one took this exact reputation, stripped it down even further, and turned pure, stubborn simplicity into the most quietly worshipped machine a mechanic can own.
And here we are at number one, the car that mechanics defend with the kind of passion you'd expect from someone talking about their firstborn child. The Mazda 3 is the plot twist of this entire list, because everything before it was about playing it safe, and this one whispers something dangerous. What if a car could be unkillable and make you genuinely happy to drive it? That's not supposed to exist at this price. Cheap cars are meant to be appliances, soulless boxes that get you to work and back. The Mazda 3 didn't get that memo. It's the budget car that accidentally fell in love with itself, and somehow that's exactly why it earns the crown. Here's the engineering secret that makes mechanics nod with quiet approval. While half the industry went sprinting toward tiny turbocharged engines, the kind that make big power on paper and big repair bills in real life, Mazda stubbornly planted its feet and refined the naturally aspirated engine to near perfection with what they call sky-active technology. No turbo to fail, no fragile high-pressure plumbing waiting to spring a leak, just a beautifully simple, high-revving four-cylinder that's been engineered to last and tuned to actually enjoy itself. It uses a proper timing chain, it's not stressed to its breaking point, and it sips fuel almost as carefully as those hybrids we just talked about, except there's even less to go wrong. It's reliability through subtraction, the art of being bulletproof by simply refusing to add the parts that break. But the real magic, the thing nobody warns you about, is that the Mazda 3 feels like it costs 3 times what it does. Slide inside, and the cabin has this hushed, premium, almost German solidity to it. Materials that feel expensive, a layout that feels deliberate, the kind of place you don't mind sitting in traffic. Then you turn the wheel, and the whole car responds like it actually wants to be there, sharp and tidy and weirdly joyful for something so sensible. It's the rare machine that nails the impossible trio. It's cheap to buy, cheap to keep, and yet it never, ever makes you feel cheap. That's why owners cling to them, why the used ones get snapped up fast, and why a mechanic will quietly tell you it's the one car on this list they'd actually want to drive on a Sunday for no reason at all. Now, because I'd never send you off without protecting your wallet, here's what to inspect. The big one is rust on certain earlier generations. Check the rear wheel arches, the sills, and underneath, because some of these cars hid corrosion better than they should have, and a clean-looking body can hide a flaky underside. On the higher mileage examples, watch for carbon buildup symptoms like a slightly rough idle or hesitation, the kind of thing a good cleaning sorts out, but you'll want to factor in. Make sure the clutch on the manuals feels firm with no slipping. Give the suspension a listen for any knocks over bumps, since these get driven enthusiastically, and confirm the infotainment and electronics all wake up properly. Handle those, and you've bought yourself something rare, a sensible car with an actual soul. And that's the whole beautiful conspiracy, isn't it? The people who fix cars for a living, who see every disaster roll through their workshop doors, who know exactly which badges hide the heartbreak, they quietly drive home in cars like these. Not the flashy ones, not the fast ones, the honest ones. So if this little behind-the-curtain tour saved you from a future of expensive mistakes, do me one last favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe so the next bit of insider knowledge lands right in your feed, and ring that notification bell so you're never the last to know. Tell me down in the comments which of these 5 you'd park in your own driveway tomorrow. And if you've got a secret reliable gem we didn't mention, share this video with that one friend who's about to make a terrible car buying decision. Drive smart, spend less, and I'll see you in the next one.